Okay, so in this next step of the process, we're going to be bringing in our patient DICOM to begin the planning process. So right here, I'm going to click on this shortcut, which is just to create a new case. And I come in here. Right here is my DICOM. This right here is a DICOM directory file, which basically helps the software to navigate all the generally 500 plus slices contained within this folder. So if I click here, it's going to open up, confirm with me that this is the correct CT scan in case there were multiple in that folder. Click OK. Now, this next step, I can't stress enough the importance of this step. If you've ever looked at a pantograph where the patient's chin is up or down too far, you'll notice that it's quite a little bit more troubling to work with. Well, the same thing with the DICOM. However, we can correct it now. So if you see the patient's chin is up a little bit high, I'm going to bring it down, try to level the plane of occlusion. It does not have to be perfect. We just want to idealize it a little bit. And the same thing with the left to right cant of the smile. And we're just, if we need to rotate it at all, we will as well. Now you have the ability to crop this down if there's data that you don't really need. We're going to be planning a lower implant. So if I go ahead and reduce this volume a bit, it will, it's also going to be a premolar, so I can sort of segment this out a bit, reduce the file size in general. It'll just accelerate the processing a bit. Now, you can just skip this completely and just leave it as is, or you can, again, do this. Either way is just fine. Okay, click OK. And now the software is going to load it, and you will see down here the pan that is generated. Again, you can see how I cropped off the top of those teeth, no big deal. And the software has tried to automatically generate a pan curve to help us navigate. We're going to correct that in just a moment. But first, I just kind of want to walk through what views we have here. So in the previous video, I mentioned the perspectives, and I talked about using the implant tangential 3. So what that means is these are the 5 screens you're going to see. And this is what it's referring to, the tangential 3, sorry, the splits of the 3. If I roll through, you can see that these are separated by 1 millimeter. Each of these slices, and you can see the representation of the blue, the yellow, and the pink denoted by these lines on the pan curve. And here's the tangential view actually over here, where if you have an implant, you can spin all the way around. Whatever's in the focus of this point, you can see this green slice, it will walk right through. So you can see the bone levels surrounding at all times. Down here is your 3D view. If I click on this little button right here and any of these views, it will expand that view temporarily and allow me to look around, and then I can close it back down. Let me zoom in for a moment. Now, one thing to be familiar with is this little sliding bar. This affects the density, and essentially what the software is recognizing as important surface. It's going to give you a rough estimate, but sometimes we have to dial it down, typically to the right. Most often we have to dial it down a little bit to clean up some of the scatter that's created by metal restorations. So I tend to dial it down a bit. We don't have to have this volume perfect. We just want to have it fairly clean and crisp to help us align our STL scan in a minute. So first thing, I'm going to minimize that, and I'll come back to this screen in just a moment. Oh, do notice this little head down here allows me to click straight to the front, to the side, to the top, to the bottom. This little widget down here is very useful for recentering your view in case you get lost and turn around and you want to get back to normal. Okay? And then last is the pan view. If you notice, it is actually a collection of everything viewed between these yellow lines up here. And if I click this line right here, or this button, it shows me only what is viewed within this yellow line, this single slice of the pan. Okay? So beyond that, we talked about the panels over here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to refine this DICOM to make it more easily viewed and tracked. First thing I do notice is this node right here, I refer to each of these little spots as nodes, is a little bit out of whack. And I'm going to bring this, ideally, this is the tooth we're going to place an implant on. I'm going to click on this tooth, make sure I'm centered here, and try to bring my curve so that it centers me right through the tooth. If you ever find that you're trying to move and you're accidentally grabbing the lines instead, just click somewhere else for a moment. Okay. Now these spots do not affect the actual guide output, they're just for help visualizing, so you can place them wherever you want. There is no way you can screw this up. This is just a chance to make things, the navigation, a little bit easier on you. Okay, this pan down here looks pretty good to me. It doesn't help with the upper teeth, but we're not working on the upper teeth. If I was, I would click here and then I would move the curve. Now, one thing you can do is you can grab this little circle here and you can drag it up. And then if I wanted, I could bring it up to here and then idealize some of these other points. But again, we're not going to be doing that. We're working on the lower teeth right now. So let's click down here. Let's bring these right in line. And I think we're looking pretty darn good. This, again, doesn't have to be perfect. Don't spend too much time, but there we go. So now that's mapped. You can see a good pan down here. And if I click this button again, it turns off that slice and I can see the whole PanRX generation. So, okay, that is the introduction of the DICOM, and the next step we will begin with mapping the nerve.